I woke to the deafening silence of the night, a cold shiver running down my spine as an unexplainable unease settled in the air. My wife lay peaceful beside me, oblivious to the looming darkness that clung to the room. A subtle creak echoed through the hallway, barely audible, yet enough to jolt me awake. I strained my ears, dismissing it as the house settling in its slumber. Unable to shake the unease, I rose quietly, my footsteps masked by the plush carpet beneath. As I approached the children's rooms, a chill sight greeted me. The door to my daughter's room was ajar, a sliver of moonlight casting an eerie glow on her toys scattered across the floor. Panic seized my chest as I pushed the door open. And there, standing in the pale moonlight, was a figure clad in a mask of malevolence. The intruder's eyes bore into mine, devoid of humanity, and in that moment, I understood the true horror of our vulnerability. Before I could react, a gloved hand covered my mouth, stifling any attempt to scream. In the muffled silence, the intruder whispered, "It's not your family I'm after. It's you." A chill ran through me as the masked figure guided me out of my daughter's room and down the hallway. Fear paralyzed me, the realization sinking in that the safety of my home had been shattered. We descended the stairs, the wooden steps betraying our descent with muted creaks. The living room below was cloaked in shadows, and as my eyes adjusted, I saw the figure had orchestrated a sinister scene. My family, bound and gagged, knelt in the center of the room, their eyes wide with terror. A voice, distorted by the mask, spoke again. "You thought you were safe in your fortress, didn't you? But safety is an illusion, a facade shattered by a single intrusion." The masked figure circled my family like a vulture, reveling in the terror that gripped their souls. I pleaded with my eyes, locked on my wife's gaze, seeking solace in shared desperation. The intruder seemed to relish our vulnerability, savoring the fear etched across our faces. A glint of steel caught my eye, and the masked figure produced a wicked blade, its malevolence dancing in the dim light. "You have a choice," the voice whispered. "Sacrifice one, and the rest may live. Refuse, and they'll face the consequences of your defiance." My mind reeled, torn between the unthinkable choices presented. The weight of my decision pressed on me, a suffocating burden. In the stifling silence, I steeled myself, ready to make the unimaginable choice. But as the masked figure approached my family, a sudden realization struck me, an unsettling familiarity in the intruder's movements, an almost rehearsed cadence to their sadistic performance. A memory clawed its way to the forefront of my mind, and with dawning horror, I recognized the masked figure's stance, the way they moved. The familiarity of the figure was undeniable. A surge of disbelief and dread gripped me as the voice behind the mask whispered, "Choose wisely, for the consequences are irreversible." The weight of the decision bore down on me, but a spark of realization ignited within. This was not a random act of violence, it was a calculated act of revenge. The masked figure reveled in the power they held over me, orchestrating a twisted play to exact their vengeance. In a moment of clarity, I made my choice, not based on the impossible decision presented, but on the revelation that this was not a faceless stranger seeking blood. The intruder's true identity surfaced in my mind, a betrayal that cut deeper than any blade. As the masked figure prepared to carry out the unimaginable, I uttered a single name. A name that shattered the illusion of anonymity and exposed the orchestrator of this malevolent performance. The figure paused, the weight of my revelation freezing them in place. The mask was ripped away, revealing a face seething with anger and resentment. The shock on my family's faces mirrored my own as they recognized the face of a long-forgotten acquaintance, a person with whom I had a history stained by betrayal. The truth spilled from their lips, a venomous confession of motives and grievances. The desire for revenge had driven them to this night of terror, a night designed to make me face the consequences of past actions. The twisted plot had been orchestrated not by a faceless killer, but by someone harboring a vendetta. The revelation hung in the air, and as the masked figure hesitated, the tide of power shifted. In the chaos of realization, my family seized the opportunity to break free from their binds. A struggle ensued, the room a battleground of fear and retribution. In the ensuing chaos, the once masked figure was subdued, the blade now a weapon of self-defense against the very orchestrator of our nightmare. The authorities were summoned, arriving to a scene of twisted motives and fractured relationships. The masked figure, unmasked and exposed, was led away in handcuffs, the revenge-driven plot unraveling into the cold light of justice. As the dawn broke, a mixture of relief and unease lingered. A family forever scarred by the night an old acquaintance sought revenge within the confines of our own home. In the aftermath, I grappled with the haunting realization that danger could manifest in the most unexpected forms, that the line between safety and vulnerability was thin and fragile. The scars of that night ran deep, a reminder that the shadows held secrets, and that even within the familiar darkness could emerge, shattering the illusion of security. The nightmare had ended, but its echoes lingered, a chilling reminder that sometimes the true terror lies not in faceless strangers, but in the twisted motivations of those we thought we knew. The home, once a fortress, now bore the weight of shattered trust, an indelible mark left by the malevolent orchestrator who had breached the sanctity of our wall-s.